Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Uncle Roll Talk podcast. Today we're welcoming something new. We're doing an Indonesian heritage spotlight, a heritage spotlight. We're highlighting the culture of Indonesians abroad, overseas, and in this particular case, America. I want to welcome the Hervey family, John, Priscilla, and John John. Welcome to the show.
Welcome, guys.
Absolutely. Hey,
Hi, glad to be here.
thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you guys
So
for
where are
coming
we at?
on.
What city? What city are you guys in? Houston?
Yeah, we're in Houston. We're originally from California, from the SGV, San Gabriel Valley. Um, and we moved out to Houston in 2019.
Nice, nice. So for the people that don't know, and I know they've seen John John's face on my social media. So John John and I have been together for about, will you say, almost 4 years, I believe, or 4 years. Yeah,
It may be more than that
it may be more than that. See, you gotta
because
help me out.
we moved out. So Priscilla, you need to help me out with the timeline. We moved out in 2019, 2020, right? During the pandemic. That's when John started attending the Shoot 360 in Houston.
Okay.
And that's where we met you.
It is. You're right. It is more than 4 years.
Yep.
It is more than because you were 14, John John,
Yeah.
when we started working together, and we met at Shoot 360 here in Houston, Texas. So I've had the pleasure of watching John John develop not only as a player but as a person, the growth, and to where he's at now. John John is a freshman in college, and John John, where are you playing at?
I'm playing at William Penn University. They're NAIA D1.
And that's in Iowa, right? The state of Iowa.
Oskaloosa.
Nice. And I'm just so proud of your growth, man. Everything that, all the hard work you've put in the gym, and just to see you develop, get stronger physically, mature, decision making on the court. It's been incredible to watch.
Thank you.
I know Drew's got a lot of questions too here. Drew.
Well, I mean, after the introductions are made, we did have I was introduced to John John, was it 2 years ago that we went?
3 years ago.
I think I was 3 now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's 3. Come on.
Well, our
Yeah.
first showcase, so that's 3 years ago.
That's right. Yeah, 3 years ago. And we had the pleasure of chaperoning him to Indonesia, and we flew together, and this was his first time
Watch the World Cup as well.
to watch the World Cup. And so I got to know him, and again, he was still, wide-eyed flying. Is that the furthest you've flown?
Yeah, it's
John?
the furthest I've ever flown.
Right? I think it was 18 hours. We stopped, where did we stop by? Was it
Stopped at Qatar.
Qatar, right?
Yeah.
And then, did we stay the night? No, it was just for a few
No,
hours,
Yeah,
right? Then we
yeah, it
kept
was just
going.
a few hours. Yeah,
Yeah. And we stayed there for 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
I think 2.
Yeah.
I was worried about you guys, man. I was like, man.
Well, Qatar was nice, right? We wanted to stay there longer, but we had we had an appointment to make. we were lucky to get there safely, and after the 3 weeks, we came back, passed through Australia, and so that
That's
whole
right.
that whole journey was really really exciting, especially to see John John just traveling by himself without his parents. So that was tough. I felt like I was responsible for. It was my son for 3 weeks. Let's just put it that way. Making sure he gets fed. But yeah, just the whole experience with him traveling in Indonesia through the traffic, all the different foods that we, tried. What was the best food you liked, John?
It's probably nasi goreng. That was probably my favorite.
Oh,
Probably
I'm
was-
with you on that one. I'm with you.
And nothing
Nice.
beats Indonesian nasi goreng.
Authentic
I
one.
agree.
And so, yeah, I mean, it was a great experience with them, with him. I don't know, maybe John can, what do you think was the first impression when you got to Indonesia?
I mean, for me, it was like a big culture shock. Like the airport itself, it was already different than America. I think, going to hotel room, all that, it just like it was just a change
Yeah,
that I just don't really know what to say, like how to describe it. It wasn't something I was used to, but it was still a really fun experience for me.
What did you have in mind before you went to Indonesia? As soon as you found out, oh, you're gonna come to Indonesia with us, did you have an imagination what it would look like?
Not really. I I kind of like thought it would just kind of look like here a little bit. I mean, I never really searched up any photos or anything, so I barely even knew what city we were going to. Like, I didn't know we were going to Jakarta for like the longest time, so I had zero idea what to think of it.
And now, do you feel like it is similar to America or totally different?
I think it's totally different. Like, just the way we did everything, it just felt a lot different than out here.
I agree.
You know, I wanted to ask you, coming from maybe from a spiritual side, like, you're half Indonesian, and going back to Indonesia, I mean, did you have a sense like, man, this is like part of me came from, this place. My mom is like her genetics is in me, and now I'm back to where, her family is. Did you have a sense of like connection?
When I first got there, I didn't. Because again, it was just so new to me. But as I talked to people and got adjusted, it felt like natural in a way. Like once when I was adjusted to everything. So yeah, I would say so.
By the way, I just remembered something when we first got there. I think I told John and Priscilla this. John had like a little tummy ache or something was not agreeing with him. I don't know if it's something we ate or it was the air. I don't remember, but remember that, Drew? And then we took John to Denny's. It was a
Oh, yeah.
Denny's, and we were like, okay, we're gonna give him something that's familiar. Something that's familiar. We don't want to make this worse. And I was actually worried about you. I was like, oh, day one.
Yeah, day one was it was bad. I don't know.
Yeah, any tummy
Yeah.
problems is like, welcome to Indonesia.
Yeah, that's pretty common, right?
Exactly.
I think that's probably one of the few things that I probably warned him about, like
Yeah,
what you
yeah.
eat, make sure you don't drink the water, just different things that could mess up his stomach, because when I would go visit, it would never fail. I would be sick from something, no matter how careful I was. So the fact that he
Right.
just felt that on day one and then was fine, like the rest of the trip, like that was a blessing.
Yeah, seriously. I was praying. I was like, well, not day one. Lord, please, not day one. No, but he did amazing. I mean, he practiced for about 2.5 weeks. And, we knew that we weren't sure how he was going to adjust to the time difference, but we knew it was going to be a busy schedule for the three of us. And I was just wondering if he could, get through this without getting sick. And that's what I was praying for. But at the end of the day, everything worked out. And I think he had a great experience. So I'm gonna ask the parents though, like how did the both of you feel, letting him go to not just Indonesia, but just going on a trip that far for the first time at 16. He was 16, I believe.
At 15.
Was it 15 or 16?
I think it was 16.
I think it was 16.
I think it was
Okay,
16.
just turned 16. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was tough for me. I mean, we hadn't been that far. We up until that point, and then of course prior to school. I mean, we're a homeschooling family, so I mean, we stay pretty closely knit. So him going on the trip was a big deal, but it also is reflective of the trust that we have in you, Uncle Rowan, and in Drew. We knew that he was going to be in good hands. Primarily it seemed like a great opportunity for him to get exposed to some of his roots, in a way that he had not been before. And just to get a feel for, I think it's one thing that we haven't done is he hasn't gotten a feel for much culture outside of the United States.
Yeah.
But it's a good thing to do because it gives you a different perspective on the world,
Absolutely.
and even on yourself.
Yeah.
So him having that opportunity to go, and to go well chaperoned, but even not with us is different, so giving him a different experience. And I guess in a certain way that I didn't expect, it was kind of giving us a little flavor of like, hey, he's not going to be in the nest forever. I mean, like now, and I mean, he's back now, but he's went off to college in August, didn't come back till Thanksgiving, So, I mean, it gave us a flavor of, seasons changing for us too.
Yeah.
Well,
Wow.
remember,
Did you guys
he
Yeah,
almost
go ahead.
wasn't
Sorry, go
gonna
ahead.
make it because we had just put in for a passport renewal. And
Mm.
so when you had asked, I was like, oh, that sounds great, but he doesn't have his passport yet because they
I
hadn't
remember.
sent it. And then I think, was it like the next day or something? I checked the mail and the passport was in the mail. And I called you up and I was like, guess what just showed up today?
Yeah.
Right.
That's not
That's
God's hand.
crazy, right?
Yes. And
Yep.
then I just remember
Right.
telling you, Mario, like, that's my baby. You better take care
I
of
know.
it.
I know it. I know it. Absolutely.
But I was on when he flew out with Drew. I mean, that whole experience was something else too, because he left to go to Los Angeles with my sister because it was
That's right.
on, I think, August 20th. It was my birthday,
On your birthday, baby.
and
Yeah.
he got
Wow.
baptized that day. And so my
Yeah,
family
That's
was
right.
in town, and I was like, okay,
Wow.
well, he can fly back to LA with my sister, and then he'll be at LAX so he can fly out to Indo with Drew. But I think, like, John, didn't your luggage not make
Yeah,
it?
yeah. Like there's something with
Wow.
the cargo, and like my bag wasn't there when we landed, and they didn't bring it back. No, they didn't unload it. They didn't unload our bag because they were swapping crews. So there was like for about like
Right.
5 hours, we thought like my
Wow.
luggage was gone or something. It's crazy.
And I remember the weather was bad. I think LA had like a hurricane or something, right? Like,
It was pretty windy. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So
I
that
was
whole
like,
time
what is
frame
going
was
on?
something.
Right.
It seems like the stars were aligned. Like it seemed like it was meant to be.
Yeah.
All the surprises, turned out fine, and
hmm
we made it safely.
hmm
But that kind of that kind of shows the commitment that you guys have to this whole journey. I had a question, like, this is a lot of commitment for parents to make. At what point, I mean, there must be a point in the beginning where you guys felt like, you know what, we're going to take this journey together. Like, at what point did you, realize that John had potential to be special, to do more? Because a lot of parents are thinking this way, like, okay, you start out, getting in sports in the beginning. How far do you want to take it? Like, did you guys have this kind of discussion early on with John John?
I don't think we ever had the discussion, so to speak, but like, I mean, every parent, rightfully so, sees their kid as special and sees their kid as having a lot of potential. Um, you know, different people have different superpowers, and John John has a few, but one of his superpowers is discipline. I've told him from a young age, I was like, with discipline, you will always win in the end, because you can overcome obstacles just by putting in the work, just by being consistent, and being consistent sometimes over a very long period of time. So John John has done that throughout his whole basketball journey. I mean, he started when he was very young, but a lot of kids start when they're very young, and then when you look at kids when they're playing, like first grade, second grade ball, you can do a lot of the wrong things and be the superstar of your team. And one of the
True.
things that I have to commend John John on is he has always trusted me. Like, so when kids are little, people, like, even teams he played, the coach just wanted to finish with his right because he was right-handed, but it's like, no, you do the right thing and then you'll get better with your left. So you work
Yes.
on your left, work on your right. I'm like, these are second grade, third grade games. So what? You're smoking layups. So what?
Yeah.
But you're doing the right thing. And he continued to work on doing the right things. And I know that he had some very boring practices with me out in our backyard in California, but he did it. And he's at a point now, and he's been at a point for, as you know, Mario, for a couple of years now since he's been driving, where it's all on him now.
Yeah.
His input now is no longer Priscilla and I into him doing this. And it's because he developed at a young age, and he's always had in him a just a real sense of drive, but also a sense of, just locking in and being determined. And the thing that's interesting with John John and his journey is, no matter where we played, like, he would always start on the bench. It didn't matter. It didn't matter what program. I
Wow.
mean, like, so it's like, he was never, any program he went into, he was never just him. But every program he went out of, he was starting by the time he left. And I think that developed something in him. He was never, I mean, I guess some guys, whether they have, you know, the look, the height, the whatever. So they're always the guy. So they're not used to not being the guy. John
Right.
John is always the guy that had to work to get there.
He earned everything.
Everything. Every time.
Yeah.
It didn't matter what program we went to. Every time.
And was that when you found out that he was special because you saw this pattern of success, or?
I saw his ability to overcome.
Mm.
And I realized that, like, he's willing to put in the work and to get over the hump. And I think in life, that's a phenomenal trait to have, because it's easy to throw in the towel, you know? And every time you move to a little bit of a bigger pond, right? So
Mhm.
then, you know, now you're a small fish in that bigger pond. Then you become a little bit of a bigger fish, and you move to the next pond. And John John's experienced that throughout his, throughout his whole, travels in basketball. And he's had amazing people like you guys that come alongside him and speak life into him and let him know that the work is worth it. Trust the process, focus on the things that you can control. And, you know, I think even going into play college ball, I mean, we're seeing the exact same thing. It's a tough pattern, because you'd love to hop into a situation and just be the guy,
Yeah.
but the problem is, whenever you go to the next level, probably everyone that was in the level below was the guy. Now you go
Yeah.
to the next level, now you're in another space where everybody was the guy, but everybody can't be the guy.
And a lot of
You
guys
know?
can't handle that.
Yeah. So I think where it's been really prevalent now is going into college. I mean, this is a completely new space, and Mario, college ball is so different than when I went to school back in late 80s and early 90s. You know what I mean? So it's like it's not even recognizable. But
Mhm.
he goes to school. Coach has 60 something kids. And the thing that I told John John is, I was like, you know, one thing that was true, it was true back in the late 80s and early 90s, and it's true today. It's that don't disqualify yourself, because
Mhm.
there are a lot of guys that are going to disqualify themselves. They're going to disqualify themselves by not doing their studies. They're going to disqualify themselves because they're not coachable, right? They're going to disqualify themselves because they refuse to do the role that the coach is going to give them. And I think John John's seeing that. I spoke with his coach a couple of weeks ago, and just to see where things are at, as a parent. And I'm not a hovering parent when it comes to the coach. I haven't spoken with the coach since August. It was all preseason. He's doing his stuff, and just encouraging John John just to put your best foot forward. And it's a rough road. And, I spoke with the coach, and coach told me, hey, you know what? When John John came, he was timid and he was shy, and, he was kind of reticent to do things, but, he's like, I continue to try to encourage him. And John John's he's found his stride, so he went from somebody that was way down on the roster to now who has been making strides. He's playing on JV, but coach said, hey, I'm going to have a couple of guys that I want to bring up to varsity. John John's on a short list. Doesn't mean he's made it, but he can put in the work. And that went from somebody who was deep on the bench in JV. So it's just realizing that, like, you don't know what your path looks like. We'll see what God has for John John this second semester. But at the end of the day, I mean, there's some situations that you need to remove yourself from, but you can't just run. At some point, you gotta dig in, and grow where you're planted, and show somebody that you can do something, you know?
Yeah, I
So
agree.
that's what John John's doing at this point. And, and I'm not saying that people should just stay in a program. Sometimes programs are toxic. Sometimes there are legit reasons not to be in a program, you know? But when you look at it from the perspective of playing time, it doesn't matter where you go, whether you go to a JUCO, a Division III, an NAIA, a Division II, a Division I, you're going to have to earn your playing time. And everybody you're playing with was him or her in high school. Every one of them. That's why they're playing college ball.
Yeah.
So now you get into a pool, and you can ask John John. There was 27, 28-year-old dudes there. He goes in at 18 years old. I mean, these guys are doing real life, like life man stuff. And you're coming in right out of high school, and you're like, what is going on? But just
Mhm.
staying focused. You know, he did well. I'm gonna brag on him for a minute. He did well with his schoolwork. He took care of his grades. He had a 3.93 first semester. So
Yeah.
we locked it
Great.
up. Control the controllables. Take care of your grades. Take care of the things you need to be doing for basketball. Get your own practice in outside of just doing the stuff the team stuff. That's a given. The team stuff's a given. You know, put in your own work. Talk to your coach. What do you need to work on? John knows what he needs to work on. Coach wants him to put on some weight. You know, the protein
Well,
powders and all that good stuff. I mean, you know what you got to do, and calories,
calories, weight room.
weight room.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love it. I mean, something I always tell John is control the things you can control.
That's it.
As long as you control the things you can control, like your diet, your work ethic, being coachable, staying resilient, all those things, something's gonna work out for you, and it always will. Something will
Yeah.
always work out for you, and I think that's a testament to what he's been doing. You know, he's been doing everything that I mentioned. You know, and another thing about John that I noticed this from probably after about 6 months being with him. John doesn't really care about who's in front of him, who he's up against. He's oblivious to that, which is a blessing. I mean, this kid could be like a 5-star kid. This kid could be like, I've seen this since he was in high school. It doesn't matter. And I've always told him, like, keep that energy. Like, it doesn't matter when you step on the floor, on the court, you're a basketball player, just like everyone else.
That's it.
It doesn't matter
That's
how
it.
old this kid is. It doesn't matter if he's ranked. It doesn't matter. You're a basketball player, and I'm a basketball
Doesn't
player
matter.
too. And that's the mindset. And he's probably the best at that. Out of all the kids that I've trained, he has ability to just be oblivious to any other kid out
Mhm.
there. So
And
yeah,
Uncle Ro,
never
you
lose that.
you had to overcome this in spades because there's, for a lot of coaches, there's still a certain perception. So they'll look at a player and a player will have a certain look and they'll want to look, oh, well, but the face of basketball has changed just across the world. You
I
know what I
agree.
mean? It's like there's a lot of Asian players that are hooping now. There's a group of European players that are now the best players in the world. The game has changed. A lot of coaches, I mean, and I get it, the eye test is a real thing. So a coach is going to come in and they're going to give the eye test. And you got a young man, like John, his build is more slight. He's not as tall as some of these kids. And coaches are going to give the eye test and they're going to say like, okay, well, I want X, Y, and Z. But you know what? The game has changed,
Mhm.
and your work over time, coaches will see it and they'll realize that like, man, okay, well, this kid, he may not be as tall, but man, he can read the floor. This kid can lock
Mhm.
down on defense. He can defend anybody, even though he's only 6 or 5'11". He can defend anybody. He can do all these different things. And then all of a sudden you realize that what's happening is something that you've done, Uncle Ro, is that you made coaches play. Because
Yeah.
the thing that folks don't realize is a lot of coaches still have an old school approach. So they'll look at a kid and they'll look at him and just think like, oh, that kid can ball.
Mhm.
He looks like he can ball. Look at that kid over there. So I just told John, I was like, listen, that initial look test, that may not work in your favor, but you put in the work and you show the coaches what you can do and you show it
Mhm.
over time, you overcome. And that's my encouragement to any player.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw that with Jeremy Lin. We've seen that with a lot of players that
Yeah.
they just stayed ready. And then when they finally got their time, I mean, wasn't it like 3 dudes on New York were like hurt or sick for dude to finally get on the
Yeah.
court. And when he got on the court, he cooked. And
He
once he
could.
cooked, it was over.
He balled out.
You know? So all you can do is stay ready.
Absolutely.
Stay ready for your moment. And that's my encouragement to any player. Stay ready for your moment. There may be this big guy that's playing in front of you or whatever, but there's so many elements to the game. There's the element of players not being prima donnas, players being coachable, like I was saying before, players being able to accept their role. And when you bring those elements to the table, and in college, players doing their schoolwork, showing up to class, not doing a bunch of partying and nonsense. So, my encouragement for any player is the face of basketball has changed. You know what I mean? You can't, back in the day, you thought you could just look at a player and know if they could hoop. You can't do that nowadays, man. You know, you can't just look at a player and feel like, oh man, that guy probably can do that. No, you don't know that.
And
You
you know
know,
what, John? As you go up in levels, this is for all players. As you go up in levels, you're going to be coached by coaches that have actually played the game as well. So they know they're going to filter out the weak. If you're not working hard, they see it.
Mhm.
If your body language isn't good, they're going to
That's
see it.
right.
So everything gets super hyper focused as you go up in levels. So you got to take care of those little things and build those habits early. This is for all players, young players. You got to build that foundation early if you want to make it to reach your full potential and make it as high as you can make it. You got to build that foundation. That's so important. That's spot on, John. I agree with that for sure. John,
I
let me
remember,
ask you. What? Oh yeah, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, I remember when John John was younger, John was saying that he was coming off the bench, so his minutes were limited early when he would join a program initially. And so we would just tell him, we know that you don't get so many minutes, make those minutes count. As soon as you get on the floor, do what you know you need to do and make those minutes count. And you'll see that those minutes will start to grow. And so
Yeah.
sure enough, he would, he would go in. I mean, if anything, he's always been really strong playing defensively, and so that always kind of that helped him stand out. And then, he's gotten more comfortable with the game. His IQ, his basketball IQ started to develop even more too. And so that just helped him increase his playing time. But he had to put in the time, the work, but he made sure that as soon as he got on that court, he did what he knew he had to do.
Yeah. Oh, we definitely see it. I mean,
This is awesome.
it's incredible his growth. Like John, let me ask you, what are some of the challenges you encountered when you first got to college, and what are some of the differences that you noticed in terms of going from high school to college?
I think one of the easiest things was the size difference. Again, like my dad said, like grown men. I mean, there was a period where there's like 30-year-old, 21-year-old 29-year-old on our team. And so me being like, I guess as not as big as those guys was like one of my first challenges. And then of course there was just all the players. There's like 60, 80 dudes on our team. So you're going against dudes that are bigger than you, and then there's a lot of them. So it's just hard for you to kind of stand out against that. Those are probably my biggest. Apart from that, I think I was comfortable with everything else. And like difference between like college and high school, it was just noticeable. Like a lot of the mistakes that you make in high school, you can't do there. There's really no weak link, I would say, like comparatively. And I think that the coaches know what they're doing. Like a lot of the coaches that we play against, they're smarter, they're running plays, teams are disciplined, where I really wouldn't see that much in high school when we play other teams.
Yeah, right. No, I could definitely relate to that. Same thing when I first went to college my freshman year. We had an All-American, and he was 25 years old, and he just looked like a grown man. I mean, he was 6'9", about 235. I'm barely 18-year-old kid. And I'm just looking at myself in the mirror like, do I even belong in college? Like, but no, I definitely can relate to that. But it grows you. That freshman year is important because you're gonna grow so much on and off the court to where you're gonna come in, and then you put that work in that summer, and then you come in that sophomore year and you're a whole different person. Whole different person. So I'm proud of you.
Hey, John, do you feel like working with Mario at the Royal Academy, you play different types of players, different sizes. Did that help you prepare for college?
But yeah, definitely. Especially like this summer, we had a lot of runs, and I got to play against a lot of dudes that are older than me. So it's kind of like a preparation. So it's just not something you can replicate in high school. I got to play a bunch of overseas people. I mean, people that are in their latter years of college. So I was already kind of used to that size difference because of that.
And he doesn't
So
back
you
down from
learn
any
not to be intimidated. Exactly. I kind of witnessed that in Indonesia because there's John. He had bigger hair then, and he's walking around. I'm again acting like a 16-year-old. We walk to the malls, and he would like look at things in a childlike way. But as soon as he stepped on the court,
Different
and when
person.
you started scrimmaging with those adults, I mean, it looked like you grew like 2 inches, and the hair kind of stood up, and you looked like a lion, like you were ready to destroy anybody in your way. And it was weird. It was like, what is going on? Like his shoulders started growing, wider. His
And
hands just like
he was only
it was
16
really
at that
weird.
time. He was just a 16
I
old
told you
kid.
that, bro. I was like, yeah, and he just behaved differently. So that's what I saw something special. Mario was like, man, you got to see this kid. It's like there's something special about this kid, and I saw that. So it was interesting that you guys are bringing up that the fearless side, and it just maybe with all that. And I can see the parents. The whole point of this spotlight, I was able to get a chance to meet a lot of parents in the showcase these past 3 years. And, there's a lot of similarities with the parents. They were very protective, but it was a lot of fire and ice, and you can see who's the fire, who's the ice in the family. Very analytical, a lot of love. Of course, not every family's built that way, but you kind of notice, where the development and the guidance comes from, and you see the results. And you know hats off to the both of you guys for doing such a great job with John John. So it's very, it's a very interesting formula to create um a player that's going to stand out. I think that's the $60 million question. What can you do to make your child better? And we're hearing a lot of that from you guys, whether it's genetic, something maybe talent that is within, or is it development and nurturing from the outside? And I think I see a lot of both from what John John has accomplished.
I believe it's a
Yeah, I mean, we
combination of
had
both with them. You could elaborate on that, John.
yeah, I
Absolutely.
mean, we had an agreement with John John and with our other kids. It's like, you pick your activity because I mean, his brother is a soccer player, not a basketball player. You pick your activity, but the caveat is, if you're just putting in the bare minimum, then we're not going to do it, right? So if you're going to do it, then commit to practicing. You commit to that, and then we will commit to our part as well. So that was just kind of the agreement that we had with the kids. It's just like, whatever you decide to do, we're going to come alongside you and support you, but you're not going to just be showing up to games to play games. You have to commit, to whatever it is you're doing, because I think that's just a life lesson. It's just whatever you're doing, whether it's your schoolwork or your job, you're not going to be able to do the bare minimum and at least not get where you want to get, or stay employed, or whatever it is, stay in business.
And I think there
100%
was there
agree.
was a period when, I think John John wasn't even sure if he wanted to continue playing basketball. And so we had a conversation with him, said if it's not basketball, that's fine, but you need to be playing something. So John was pretty adamant, like you need to play a sport because of the discipline and that sports really provide for the athletes and stuff. And so we gave him a period of time and we said, think about it, pray about it. If there is something else that you want to do, that's totally fine, but just know whatever you do, you're going to have to invest,
Mhm.
in that, because I think he um, was he in middle school at that time or early high school? I can't remember exactly what time frame, but it's like you've gone through so many years playing basketball. If you switch to another sport, the learning curve is a bit higher the older you get. So after that period of time, he came back to us and said, I've invested so much time in basketball. So I'm going to stick with basketball. And then John and we just asked him, like, what can we do to help you? Because I think at that point, he wasn't enjoying the game as much.
Mhm.
John John, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we got the feeling that he just wasn't enjoying it. And so we're like, what can we do to bring that love for the game back? If it means putting you in a different program or, whatever it is. And I think around that time is when we we launched the Houston Raiders. It was roughly around that time.
It was post COVID. COVID was a
Okay.
weird
And it
time
was
for
right
everybody.
before I think he started really training with you, Mario.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it was just right before that, because when he did come to you, I mean, you just helped him so much with perspective and, just mentoring him. And I think that really helped him find that love for the game again.
Yeah. No, I've always seen the potential in him. I've always seen, how much he loves this game and just raw talent. And then I met you guys, and then it was like, in my heart, I was sold. I was like, come on, we're in this. We're in this. I'm gonna mentor him, and I'm gonna push him. It's not gonna be easy. He's gonna hate me sometimes, but there's just so much greatness I see in him. I've always seen that.
Now you have been, and you guys have been an exceptional blessing. And I think as a dad, and this can happen with parents, is, sometimes we can be the source of our kids losing the joy of the game. But it's like I was seeing potential in him, more potential than I had. And that excited me. But then I wasn't, manifesting that well for him, and he needed something different from me as his dad. So you being able to step in and really to do that. So yeah, I mean, I coached him in high school, but like I was no longer his trainer. I mean, it's like, and honestly, the training is the key, because every player is going to go to their team practices. That's the lowest bar. I mean, you're playing a game and you go to your team practice. That's the lowest bar. I was just a team assistant coach. But training, that's where you grow in your game. And when you came on board, that was out of my hands. And then I think it helped our relationship, honestly, between the two of us. Because also as a dad, I mean, it's like, it's easy to be almost too nitpicky. And, it's like part of the game, part of learning in the game is making mistakes. I mean, it's like you make mistakes and you learn from them. But it's like, if your kid feels like, dang, I can't even make a mistake around my dad, because, you know what I mean?
Right.
Every time he's got something to say. And so it was actually great for me being a coach, because I had a whole team full of players to be concerned with,
Hmm.
So I couldn't, whereas when I was just a dad in the stands, I was just on him,
Right.
you know what I
Right.
mean? But like,
It's
I
true.
couldn't do that anymore. You know, I now had to look at the team as a whole, and I had much bigger concerns than him on the team as a coach. So I had other stuff to focus on to try
Yeah.
and get this team to where it was. So that really liberated, I think, from our relationship. And then he owned it. He's working with you. I talk with him. I find out what you guys been working on. I'm a dad and I'm a coach, so I'll give my 2 cents, but you guys know what you're doing. Yeah. And the thing is, his IQ grew so much, and his IQ is higher than mine. So he knows. I'm not telling him anything he doesn't know. If I'm saying something, I may be jogging something in his memory, but like, he's such a high IQ player.
Yeah.
And he developed that from a very young age, playing the point position, and being in a place where he was safe to make mistakes and to figure things out. Because you have to kind of work your way through a position, especially like being a point guard. You got to really work your way through that. That is
Yeah.
a tough position.
The
That is a
toughest for sure.
hard position. So, I think those things helped our relationship, and Priscilla's always exceptionally supportive, and, just, cheering him on and keeping him encouraged. But he's doing all the heavy lifting, he's doing all the heavy lifting.
You're speaking a lot of wisdom, John, because you'd be surprised, a lot of fathers and the parents, they said the same thing. When I meet with them and talk to them while they're practicing during the showcase, they feel like, they want to say so much more to their son or their daughter, but they can't, because the delivery is different. The person delivering that information is different, because like you said, there's a lot of expectations from the child. They don't want to make a mistake, and they can't even focus on what you're telling them, because they're more worried about their performance and the result instead of identifying the issue. And so getting that information from Mario, it's a lot more, the delivery process is different, and they respond differently. And a lot of the parents, they feel very relieved. And so now they can just enjoy watching it because that burden is on Mario passing
Correct.
out that information.
Hey,
And you get
he
to
could be mad
enjoy
at me all,
watching the
so he
class.
doesn't need to be mad at the parents. He could be angry at me all the time. I'll be hard on him. I'll
So
be the bad
it's like,
cop.
it's, and I guess the great part of this conversation, it's like you realize it's almost a team effort, you know? And it's
Yeah.
not the fault of the player too, the child, because they don't know how to, you know, develop their skills. There's a lot of guidance to be made and a lot of, you
Yeah.
know, correction. And then you teach them how to self-correct. And I can see this in all the conversation. And I think John John's one to just kind of take it all in. And, you know, he's, you know, hopefully we can look back and see that we're all, again, a lot of parents are watching this. They're trying to find that formula and they all can relate to everything that you guys are talking about. So this is really very informative.
Yeah.
Very informative.
No, I think one of the biggest things for us as well, and Priscilla helped me to kind of stay on track, is just remembering, you know, the ultimate objective, you know, especially, you know, sports, you know, it should be building you up as a man or as a woman. You know, it should be edifying. Basketball, I remember being little and basketball taught me so much, you know, especially, you know, my dad had already passed, you know, it's like it taught me so much about myself that like, man, if I work
Mm.
hard, I can actually get good at something, you know? And that's a fantastic lesson. There's so many life lessons
So many.
in
So many.
basketball. And I mean, some of the best lessons are like, man, sometimes some of the best games John played weren't games that they won. But guess
Huh?
what? That's the, you know, and sometimes you win a game and you didn't really put your best foot forward.
Hmm.
So you have to like reflect to yourself and say, okay, well, you know, was I just kind of going through the motions here? Was I not really respecting the other team? Was I just kind of, you know,
You learn.
and when you start to look at the game from that perspective and what it actually builds in you from a character, I mean, that's to me what the game is about. You know, and that's what I love about the game, and that's what I'm enjoying with John John. Just like be disciplined, continue to exercise your discipline, trust the process, and put your best foot forward. You know, these coaches, you know, they get paid to do this. You know, so either if you're in a decent program, they see things. They see things that your parents don't see, you know,
Mhm.
and they have reasons for things. And sometimes the reasons may be because, you know, it's their perception. So I told John John at the beginning, I was like, listen, the coach is playing people based on what he perceives people are bringing to the table. So the coach doesn't have anything against you, but either you're not showing the coach something that he needs to see from you, or he wants something else from you. So have a conversation with the coach. So John John goes and he talks with the coaches and starts finding out, you know, and that lets the coach know, and it's a good lesson for the young man because he realizes, oh wow, you know, especially in this age where these young people are, and I'm not to talk bad about it, but they do everything on their devices.
Mhm.
They communicate on their devices, they do all these kind of things, but it's like when you go and talk to somebody man to man, face to face, adult to adult, because you know, you're now in college, whether you're talking to your professor or talking to your coach, it hits completely differently than sending an email. You
Yeah.
know? I mean, one of the classes that he triaged, he ended up getting an A minus in his psychology class, but he was having a rough go halfway through. Go talk to your psychology professor. Let him know that you care. Don't get caught unawares. Talk to him about the things that are coming up. You know, when folks know that you care, they will tell you, "Hey, you're not studying the right thing." You know, "Hey, you know, this is what I'm looking at." No, that's not, you know, but if you just, you know, like, you know, you don't say anything, you know, the coach doesn't know you care, your teachers don't know you care, you're just going about your way. And this is a lesson I learned the hard way. I didn't learn that at the beginning of college. I learned that
Same.
throughout college. I was like, you know, I struggled my year. Struggled, man. You know, because nobody was holding my hand. You know, nobody was telling me, hey, you need to go talk to your professor.
Oh, yeah.
Man, you're over here, you're getting smoked. You know, you need to, you know. But those are the same lessons. So honestly, there's a mirror between what he's doing academically and what he's doing athletically. You know, and that's the growth that I want to see in him as a parent, is maturing, doing more of the adult things, having the conversations, and then assessing from the conversation, then what do I do next? How do I improve my position wherever I'm at, whether it's in a class or it's on the court? And then how do I make sure that the coach or the teacher sees that I'm putting in that effort?
I love
That's
it. I
awesome.
love it. I love it, man. I appreciate you guys, man. I appreciate you guys, your time to come on here. And just to see you guys,
Bro,
just to see you guys. I miss y'all, man. What's up here?
Miss you
well,
too.
just I want to say for the Herveys, this is a special episode. This is our first Indonesian Heritage Spotlight. That's why Ro's wearing that Indonesian T-shirt. I'm wearing an Indonesian designed shirt that I got from a friend.
Fantastic.
Priscilla, so again, Indonesian Heritage Spotlight. There's going to be a lot of people watching this in Indonesia. We're trying to kind of inspire a lot of people in Indonesia, introduce them to a lot of people here in America, all over the world with Indonesian heritage. And we're going to try to interview a lot of people from different industries, not just basketball, not just sports, but musicians, professionals. Again, just that Indonesian heritage recognition. How does it feel for you to see your son, again, being recognized in the Indonesian community, potentially representing Indonesia? How does that make you feel as a, Indonesian?
Well, I'm really proud of him and just the opportunity to be an example for Indonesians, in athletics. Just being Asian in athletics, particularly basketball, is already something, and then to be Indonesian. When I first met Mario, when he told me that he played professionally in Indonesia, my first reaction was, they have a basketball team in Indonesia? Like, I didn't know. I had no idea. And for someone, for my background, so that folks will know, I'm American born. And both my sister and I are American born. It's our parents that were born and raised in Indonesia. My mom's side of the family has been in Indonesia for many generations. Actually, I don't even know exactly who first came to Indonesia. And my dad's second generation, in Indonesia. But my connection to Indonesia is pretty strong because when I was growing up, my mom and I would go back every summer. I would spend my summers in Indo. And my aunts, uncles, cousins, extended family, they're still there. I haven't had a chance to visit. I was hoping that John John would have an opportunity to visit, but because y'all's schedule was so crazy, I know that he didn't get a chance to get to the other side of the island. But it means a lot to me though, because I've always had this connection to Indonesia in terms of the culture and my heritage. I remember when I was growing up in California, the Indonesian consulate had like a cultural program. And so my group of friends, we would learn the cultural dances. So we did like Tari Bali. They had like the
Nice.
gamelan. We would perform for different Indonesian events in the area. My Bahasa has never really gotten very good. But I understand enough, I understand enough to get by. But, I was just really grateful that John John is able to make this connection to Indonesia, especially through Mario and you, Drew, and just the community that y'all have developed to come alongside him. When you guys did that Indonesian showcase, that was and is a big deal. Talking to the other parents and the players and just how excited they were to realize like there are other people like me, there are others like me, and this is possible. This is possible. When they see Mario, they're like, this is a dream that can come true. And something that I know being Asian, one of the things that I hear is, well, my kid really shouldn't put too much effort into a sport that there probably isn't going to be potential for. And so they steer them more towards academics or some other sport or something like that. Basketball has always been like, there's only a small percentage, and being Asian, the percentage is even smaller. So why even put your energy if it isn't going to amount to something? But my perspective is like, but what if your kid is that one player in that small percentage, to go all the way? Now, how do you know unless you give them those opportunities? And if they show that they have that desire, right? To be as a parent to help cultivate that, whether it's finding the right trainers, the right programs, helping them with their mindset. I mean, there's just so many things that we can do to help them develop in that area. But what I love about this too is that he can, connect to his culture and his heritage, because he's half, and I'm kind of far removed because I was born and raised here. So it's just really nice to stay connected, to our roots, and to instill that level of pride in him of who he is, in his background. Um, and that's important too. It's just having that understanding of his identity, and to want to develop that. I mean, when he came back from Indo, he's like, I need to learn Bahasa. So he's on Duolingo,
I love it.
and
I
he'll
love it.
send me text messages in Bahasa, and I'm like,
I
and
love it.
I'm trying to respond back because mine isn't very good.
But
So that's been
I
really
love
neat
it.
to connect with him in that way as well. And so I'm excited to see what might come in his future.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Whether he goes and plays in Indo, I don't know. But I trust that he's going to walk the path that he's meant for. And as long
Absolutely.
as he's putting in the time, the effort, and his will is there, and we've got the right people around him, that, sky's the limit. He can
That's
accomplish whatever it is that he puts his mind to.
hey, John, connecting with what your mom was saying, when you first meet a lot of people who are experiencing the same thing, right? At the Row
yes.
Academy Showcase, what was your thoughts on meeting so many people that were kind of, had the same background as you, boys and girls?
It was really good. I had those other people like me out there, that are like my age, respectfully. But I think it was cool, because it's just something that we got to share together, and connect over pretty easily. So yeah.
You guys acted like family, like immediately, like you started joking around. I remember the girls were like teaching you Bahasa and you're just like, you know, focused, like, okay, I need to learn more. It's just really neat to see.
It is.
Yeah.
And like they still
It was
stay
very
connected.
nice.
I know John and Maxine still communicate, and you could learn a lot of Bahasa from her because her Bahasa is like perfect. Oh, one thing I do want to say though about the heritage is, I'm just grateful for all you guys, all the parents, to be committed in the heritage showcase. Like Priscilla and John, you guys have been in this, for 3 years, and the reason why I did this is because I see myself in them. I see myself in John John when I was 17. And I didn't grow up in the Indonesian community. I grew up in Southern Indiana, and I didn't know much about Indonesia. Or same like you, Priscilla. I said, Indonesia has basketball? I didn't even know that. I was like, wow, it was a shocker to me. But just to see them all come together, and that's very fulfilling to me. And, I pray that they're going to continue to grow and have opportunities throughout their lives, whether it be in basketball, whether it be in Indonesia or anywhere else. But I just want to be a small part of that growth process. I'm proud of all of it.
I'll tell you, one of the things that was nice about the showcase too, John John's uncle Jared came to the showcase, and he's a baller. I mean, he played at Grambling State. And he was unlike. I think everyone was surprised. It's like, man, there's Indonesian ballers. I mean, like those dudes can hoop. I mean, he's like, these dudes can hoop. I was like, I didn't know what I was showing up for. I was just coming to
Oh,
support John John.
wow.
He's like, but these dudes can hoop. I was like, yeah, these guys can go.
That's awesome. That's
That's right.
awesome.
It's just good
We're,
across the
we're
board.
proud of all of them. We're
Yeah.
so proud of all of them. Thank you guys, man.
I did want to just say thank you to you and Drew. Thank both of you. I mean, it's been a real blessing for John. John's been a blessing for our whole family. you know, as John John has gotten closer to his own roots and just had other, and I think you said it well, Drew, it takes a village, you know, get to a place where even as a dad, you realize you need more folks around you to help your young man or your young daughter to get where they're trying to go. So I really appreciate you guys.
Appreciate
Much
you
love.
guys.
Much love.
Yes.
Mhm.
Thank
Love you guys, man.
Future is bright for this guy, that's for sure.
Amen.
Amen. Amen.